Chrissy Lampkin and Jim Jones' newborn kid has supposedly gone missing, and believe me, the circumstances are complicated, strange, and downright terrifying. Individual case? Oh no, this is a full-blown Hollywood-level scandal, and the streets are already talking. If you've been keeping up with all the turmoil surrounding Chrissy and Jim Jones's, then we know their relationship has been on life support for years. They've been engaged for almost a decade with no wedding in sight. Chrissy has openly asked for commitment. And Jim Jones as well. Let's just say commitment isn't exactly his strong suit. And now with a missing baby thrown into the picture, this entire thing is looking pretty suspect. So here's what we know so far. Chrissy Lampkin and Jim's kid disappeared without a trace early this morning. But here's where things take a strange turn. Nobody appears to know how, when, or why. According to people close to Chrissy Lampkin, she was last seen with the infant at her Miami condo just a few days ago. Everything appeared normal, with no evidence of struggle or forced entry. Then suddenly, poof, the baby was gone. Now y'all know the internet detectives wasted no time jumping on this. Folks started drawing the dots, digging up prior issues, and attempting to find out what actually happened because, let's be honest, the timing of all this is far too convenient. First, there was the paternity controversy. Then Jim Jones started acting odd, and now the baby disappeared. Something isn't adding up now. Let's speak about Jim Jones for a second because the way he's been moving has folks giving him the side eye, while Chrissy Lampkin has been out here frantically phoning the cops, making comments and breaking down. In tears, Jim Jones's has been chilled. Yes, you heard that correctly. Instead of publicly crying out about his missing child, Jim Jones's was photographed hanging out with his lads, cracking jokes and appearing perfectly unconcerned, and if that wasn't bizarre enough, he even shared a mysterious message on Instagram that had folks losing their minds. He stated, "Sometimes you get to let go, to go on, excuse me, sir. Let go of what? Because if this man is talking about letting go of his own baby, we have a big problem, and the internet spent no time dragging him." One user wrote Jim Jones behaving far too calm for somebody whose son just gone missing. Things ain't right. Another user added Chrissy Lampkin is out here devastated and Jim Jones is just chilling. Yep, this dude is concealing something. And look, I don't like jumping to conclusions, but this whole issue is looking real fishy. Because let's not forget, the streets were already whispering about it. Whether Jim Jones's was even the father of this child to begin with, yep, you heard that correctly a few months ago. Rumors started flying that Jim Jones's had discreetly sought a paternity test. Behind Chrissy's back, some said he was telling his close friends that he had reservations. Others claimed he was genuinely trying to get a discreet DNA test done before signing the birth certificate. And then shortly after the kid was born, Jim Jones suddenly started distancing himself. Coincidence? I don't think so. Let's get into the suspicious details surrounding this kid's. According to Chrissy's close friend, she was the last one seen with the infant. But when people arrived to check in, the baby was nowhere to be discovered. There was no forced entry. Surveillance film of a break and no witnesses witnessing anything unusual. It's almost like the baby just vanished into thin air. And the real issue is, who would want this kid gone now? We begin throwing fingers. Let's talk about the one guy who has been entirely silent since all this went down, Jim Jones. Not only has Jim refused to speak to the media, but Chrissy Lampkin herself has been having difficulty getting in contact with him. And this is where things take a completely crazy turn, since word on the street is that this could not be a simple missing kid case, but a full-blown kidnapping. Yeah, kidnapping. An unnamed person who claims to be extremely close to Chrissy's inner circle says that she and Jim Jones's have been getting threats for weeks. This baby disappeared. Now hold on, threats? This alters everything, because if Chrissy and Jim Jones's were already being harassed, we need to question who had it out for them and why, and let us not Chrissy Lampkin has been in some major drama over the years. She's rubbed people the wrong way in the business, feuded with ex-friends, and let's not even get into the money troubles she and Jim Jones have received over the years. Could this kidnapping be a warning, a message, or something even more sinister, since now people are starting to connect the dots and the evidence points in a very unsettling direction? First of all, let's talk about how conveniently silent Jim Jones's has been this entire time. One minute he's out here joking with his pals, the next he's completely off the radar. Even the paparazzi, who are typically all up in his business, can't seem to hunt him down, so we now have two missing people, Jim Jones and the kid. What if Jim Jones genuinely knows where the kid is now? Look, I'm not saying he did it, but if he's involved, it may explain why he's been so odd about the whole thing. And don't forget, Jim Jones's has been publicly doubting the baby's paternity. What if he found out something that made him want to handle this matter himself? Now, I know what you're thinking. Why wouldn't Chrissy Lampkin be part in any of this? Chrissy Lampkin has been absolutely surprised by everything. She's been weeping, asking her friends for aid, and even had to be removed out of the police station after she appeared, up demanding answers. This lady is devastated. So if this was some sort of inside job, Chrissy Lampkin clearly wasn't on it. And it only makes things much more painful now that we already know the police have officially opened an investigation. But here's where things get even wilder. According to recent allegations, an unidentifiable black SUV was observed outside Chrissy's condo only hours before the infant was discovered missing. And guess what? Jim Jones's owned a black SUV. So now we have to wonder whether this kid was abducted by someone Jim Jones knows. Since the way everything is happening, it looks like this could not just be a basic missing kid case, but something lot greater. And y'all, the next set of facts that just emerged, it's about to blast this case wide up. But now the cops are exploring an even darker scenario. Stay tuned because we're delving deep into the new evidence, the mounting suspicions about Jim Jones, and the scary now wait on because things are becoming even weirder in this missing infant case. The cops have been working nonstop, and now fresh evidence has revealed that making many really doubt if this is actually a kidnapping or something lot more sinister. As it play first things first, let's speak with this black SUV. As I indicated before, a darkened SUV was sighted near Chrissy's condo just hours before the kid was reported stolen, and guess what? Jim Jones owns a black SUV. I'm not suggesting Jim Jones was the one driving it, but let's reel this man has been acting strangely. The police immediately started investigating, grabbing surveillance tape and trying to follow the vehicle's movements. But here's where it gets more sketchier. The film from Chrissy's condo security cameras, which might have provided us with clear answers, has vanished into thin air. That suggests someone did this on purpose because, let's be honest, surveillance film doesn't just disappear unless someone made it disappear. And the real question is who? Has the authority to do that Jim Jones, a hired professional, someone else linked to this whole issue at this point? It's evident whomever abducted this baby understood what they were doing. And now the police, starting to put the pieces together, and what they just uncovered has folks completely losing their minds. Now, before we go into the latest bombshells, let's talk about Chrissy's reaction to everything. This is because if you thought she was devastated before, wait till you hear what occurred next. Chrissy Lampkin has been anxious for answers, virtually pushing the cops to do more. And according to insiders, when Chrissy Lampkin learned about the SUV sighting and the missing tape, she slumped on the floor in the police station, sobbing violently. She kept saying, "I know." Chrissy Lampkin allegedly informed authorities that she had a horrible feeling about Jim Jones's for weeks before all of this happened. She said that he had been acting differently, avoiding her, making excuses, and even leaving for lengthy periods without informing her where he was going. Now tell me, what sort of father does that to his newborn kid? Chrissy Lampkin also said that she and Jim Jones's had a huge disagreement only days before the baby went missing. According to Chrissy Lampkin, Jim Jones's accused her of lying about something and was threatening to leave her for good. But here's where things take a very unsettling turn, because shortly after that, Chrissy Lampkin started seeing strange things happening, and she swore that someone had. She assumed she was tripping at first, but then she started hearing noises at night, and she spotted a strange man standing outside her building late at night, just gazing. The frightening thing was when she went to check the security cameras to see who it was, the tape was gone, much like what occurred the night the baby disappeared. What in the world is going on here? Because now it appears that this whole incident was organized well in advance, and that indicates somebody, maybe even Jim Jones's, has been scheming something for weeks now. Here's where the case gets a stunning new twist, because just when the authorities were getting closer to understanding what occurred, another huge development hit. And this one is right out of a Hollywood movie. A second black SUV was recently discovered abandoned on the side of the road and inside a piece of cloth that matched what Chrissy Lampkin had in the baby's nursery. Hold up, because this is big. This suggests that whomever abducted the infant was moving them about in a second car to throw people off. And since this vehicle was abandoned so quickly, it's almost like whoever was driving it had to get rid of it quickly. So now the police are analyzing security footage from neighboring streets, following license plates and attempting to find out precisely where this second car came from. But here's where things become even more bizarre, because after hearing about this abandoned SUV, a mysterious witness suddenly came forward with new information and what this individual is stating. This witness claimed they spotted a man carrying a bundle wrapped in a blanket running into a completely different automobile barely hours after the infant was abducted. They characterized the man as tall, wearing all black and appearing worried, and when the police presented them a lineup of prospective suspects, guess who photo they hesitated on? Jim Jones. Witnesses just reported they saw a man who looked a lot like Jim Jones carrying something that may have been the infant going into another vehicle. So was Jim Jones really the one behind this? Let's be honest, everything is pointing at him right now, and just when you thought it couldn't get any wilder, guess what? Jim Jones has gone missing. Nobody knows where he is. He's not answering his phone, and his crew has gone silent. This man has entirely disappeared from the face of the earth, and you already know what it implies. Guilty people fled, because let's be honest, if your baby is gone, you should be out here trying everything to find them. But Jim Jones dropped. And now people are wondering whether Jim Jones took the baby himself or, and this is where things get even more horrifying, did somebody take Jim Jones's too? Because now there's a new theory circulating that Jim might not truly be culpable. But instead, he could have been set up, y'all. What if Jim Jones got caught up in something a lot greater than simply a lost baby? Let's not forget Jim Jones has been tied to some extremely powerful individuals, and not all of them have good intentions. So now we have two big options. Option 1. Jim Jones's was involved in the baby's disappearance and is now on the run since he knows the truth is soon to be revealed. Option 2. Jim Jones's wasn't the mastermind, but he got himself into something dodgy, and now both he and the kid are in jeopardy. And y'all, the most stunning thing is still coming, because now somebody is making anonymous phone calls to the police. And these calls, they're claiming to know precisely what occurred to baby. In part 3, we're going into these strange call the unexpected twist, which has everyone wondering what actually occurred and the scary reality of who could actually be behind this entire mess as the drama over Chrissy Lampkin and Jim Jones' missing baby grows. Pressure is building from every source. Social media is in a frenzy, and the streets are buzzing with speculations. And now even law enforcement is feeling the pressure. But the real issue is who's really behind this. And is this just the kid? Or is there a broader game at play here? Jim Jones's is desperate, according to sources close to him, and he hasn't slept in days. He has been making non-stop calls, pulling every rope he can, and even reaching out to people from his past who he promised he'd never deal with again if you know Jim's background. While the drama over Chrissy Lampkin and Jim Jones's missing baby develops, the pressure is increasing from every source. Social media is in. The streets are humming with whispers, and even law enforcement is feeling the pressure. But the real issue is who's really behind this. And is this about the baby, or is there a broader game? Jim Jones's is desperate at this point, according to individuals close to him. He hasn't slept in days and has been making non-stop calls, tugging every rope he can, connections. But even with all that power and influence, he's coming up empty-handed, and that's when the Fed steps in. Yes, you heard that right, federal agents. Since evidently the case has gone so crazy that local officials can't handle it alone. Word on the street is that this isn't just a regular kidnapping case. Some high-level criminals may be involved. When the feds come knocking, you already know it's more than it appears. Now, let's speak about Chrissy. She's been absolutely off the grid since this news emerged. No interviews, no social media posts, nothing. People are starting to question what she knows that we don't. Some insiders think she's been in communication with a mysterious person who's been giving her information about where the kid could be. But here's where things get even weirder. Others believe this wasn't a kidnapping at all. They claim Chrissy knows precisely where the baby is, and this whole thing is simply a cover-up. Something far greater. But why would she do that? And more importantly, what is she hiding? Meanwhile, Jim Jones's is spiraling. He's showing up at police stations demanding answers. And he's even hired private investigators to look further. And they just unearthed something extraordinary. There's footage supposedly from a security camera near Chrissy's house that shows a dark SUV driving up minutes before the infant disappeared. But here's the kicker. The guy coming out of the SUV seems strangely familiar. People are suggesting it's someone close to the family, someone who has beef with Jim for years. Could it be an ex? A former business partner? A rival from the industry? Whoever it is, their presence is too suspicious to ignore. And just when we thought things couldn't get messier, boom, fresh reports drow that a ransom note has surfaced. That's right. Someone is wanting money in exchange for the baby's safe release, and you won't believe how much their Jim Jones has money. But he isn't sitting on that type of cash liquid, and some sources suggest that he's been attempting to pull the money together quickly. But hold up. Why would someone take a celebrity's infant and believe they can just demand money like this unless it was personal? This isn't just random crime. It feels like a setup that someone premeditated. Someone knew what they were doing, and now Jim Jones's is forced to make the hardest decision of his life: pay up and have his child back, or call their bluff and let the authorities handle it. But let's be honest, if it was your child, would you really take that chance now? While Jim Jones's is dealing with all of this, online investigators are working overtime, and some people feel it's all staged. Jim Jones's and Chrissy are using the media to stay relevant. Some think this is deeper than Hollywood, that there is some great secret connected that they don't want uncovered. And then there's the most unsettling notion of all. What if the baby was never truly in? What if this was all part of a broader scheme? After all, Chrissy has been trying to convince Jim Jones's to settle down for years. This is her final move. What if she's forcing Jim's hand to commit to becoming the guy she's been pushing him to be? It may seem ridiculous, but nothing is off the table in Hollywood, which is why we need to stay tuned, because no matter which way this goes, one thing is clear. This is far from finished. The story simply keeps getting wilder, and you already know we'll keep track of it. What do you think really happened? Is Jim Jones's genuinely out there attempting to rescue his kid? Or is there more to the story? Do you think the police will find his ex before it's too late to drop your ideas in the comments? We need to know what y'all think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable alerts. You'll never miss an update because, trust me, this situation is far from overstaying. Locked in, and we'll catch you all at the next one.